Good day, and welcome to another episode of Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. Another light in this darkened world. I am your host, Penny L.A. Shepherd, and I am Agent X11. My co-hosts are David Zublik, Heather Day, Joan Renee, Chris Montgomery, Skip Press, Tom Althouse, Jessica Garza, Edward Medallion, Dr. Keith Abloh, and TJ Ward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist, begins now. And welcome to another episode of Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. Skip, you're dark.
Oh, it's my stupid phone. No, it's the settings on my stupid iPhone kicks in.
God, I love it.
And well, you know what? Guess who showed up in the dark?
It's time.
There he is. Yeah, how's it going?
Edward Medallion. Does anyone ever call you Eddie?
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
I would say
All the time.
They say Eddie?
That's what George called me in jail, the Native American J6er.
He called you
me
Eddie?
Yeah.
Okay. Eddie.
Yeah.
So
Or
we are all live, and thank God for long intros, right? Because that's what it's all about. My name is Penny L.A. Shepherd, and I am Agent X11. I'm joined by Joan Renee, Jessica Garza. I said it right, Jessica, because I had like 10 minutes of sleep. Edward Battalion, Skip Press, and our guest is Urban. We call him Josh. That's his name. He goes by Josh Urban. And Joan Renee, how are you?
I'm good, and I've been on your website, Josh, and I can't even pick a topic for today. There's so many good ones.
I appreciate that. I'll take that as a compliment. I cover a wide variety of things. It's never the same between days. It's just whatever catches my eye, whatever seems interesting. I cover it. I don't discriminate. I cover any topic, even if it's something I don't necessarily know much about. I'm willing to cover it just so that other people can learn with me, so that I can learn what it is and make it available for the future.
Your titles are enticing.
Kind of brilliant. You're 25
Yes.
and you're kind of brilliant for anybody's age, but still. I met Josh. He came to me in a DM and said, "Hi."
Here I am.
And I looked at his site, and about, I don't know, was it like an hour later, I said, "Hey, I just had a cancellation. Can you come in?" He's like, "Yeah, sure."
It was like 10 minutes later, actually.
Something like that. It was like, I mean, by the grace of God. So And he is just really, really knowledgeable. I love your site. I love all of the things that you're open-minded about, and that's what
Appreciate that.
we try to be, is open-minded. And no one person knows everything, so that's
No.
okay too.
It's the only thing we know for sure in this life is that we don't know anything.
That's for sure. The older I get, I turn into Schultz from Hogan's Heroes. I know nothing.
Yeah.
Jessica, how are you today?
Good. Just ready.
You were born ready, girl.
Yes.
Edward Stallion, how are you?
Well, I'm excited. This is one of my favorite topics, obviously. So
Bad alien.
I have plenty of
Right,
questions.
Daddy
Yeah.
I could not say his
Actually,
name
yeah.
for the longest time. I
There's
couldn't.
this really good video that's right on this topic that I just looked up that I can show you guys, or I don't know, just link it to you maybe.
Well, you actually know how to share your computer, so you could do that.
Did my screen
Right.
freeze?
Yes.
I think it did.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
I'll
much
fix
for
it.
sharing the computer. You're not allowed to send us a link.
No, I'm not going
or
to share it right now. I'm just saying when we get into it. It's called The Satanic Cult Origins of Authoritarian Control. It's on band.video. David Icke spoke on InfoWars.
Oh,
and they clipped it a
nice.
long time ago. Yeah, and I've always thought it was a perfect synopsis of like what Josh talks about.
Okay. And Skip Press, how are you?
I'm good. I was born in the days of high weirdness, and so I'm prepared.
High weirdness.
I can tell.
Nothing
Yeah.
surprises Skip anymore.
Did we just lose Ed? How did he
I
drop
think
out?
so.
Might be relogging.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
probably.
it says he needs to connect his microphone before we can add him to the stream. So I'll kick
Oh.
him out and he can come back in again.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. So where shall we begin on this topic, which is, it's kind of like a part two. We did a part one when we switched you around.
So
And
want to pick back up on what we were talking about?
well, you might want to give us a review for people
Yeah.
that don't know what this is. But this is
Cool.
Armageddon programming. All this in preparation for a coming day or event when they intend on triggering all the school shooter incels at once. Will that event be the assassination of Trump? Armageddon on their terms. And by the way, Josh, I did my master's degree on my master's thesis was on school shootings.
Really, that's very interesting.
Mhm.
Really, that's a thing that we have to study, but it's interesting that you study it. It's it gets even more unsettling, at least to me, when you look back at Bill Cooper's book and that came out at the beginning of the 90s, like maybe 93, Behold a Pale Horse. And he
Yes.
says a word. He says there is let's see, I've got it memorized almost. He says the U.S. government has imported military firearms and put them into the hands of criminals, using drugs paired with hypnosis on mental patients in a process known as Orion. They were going to inculcate the desire for these people, these crazies, to open, and he says, open fire on schoolyards. So this is something that had been in the works, that had been planned, and was with the ultimate goal of disarming the public. So I guess the best place to start would be that it seems that they have long since realized that they're not going to be able to take everyone's guns. And so that leaves only one other opportunity, and that's for them to create a scenario where we're to use them on each other. That's what our Armageddon program is that if they can't take everyone's guns, the only other option is that they're going to try to get us to fight each other with them.
Right.
The CIA long ago learned how to turn rage into homicidal rage, and you need to get people to a boiling point, much the same as boiling water. So that's why you're seeing these rising tensions over the last, 10 years. I'm young, but 10 years I've noticed it. Ever since, we've become polarized, probably mainly over the topic of Trump, either love him or hate him.
Right.
People have grown into the tribal mentality. We've been reduced into people who could agree to disagree and live and let live, to people who, it's like, if you don't agree with me, if we're on any type of different side of the aisle, like, I hate you. Like it's a
Right.
hatred that's burning now.
Yeah.
And that's what they want. You have to boil the water. You have to get people close to the edge of their seats.
I think that's
You know-
what the Dems did in this last administration. They literally managed to take like 1% of the population and pretend that it was 99% of the population, and then exchange our language. We changed our language to benefit them, and they decided, you're going to call me by I'm a cat, I'm a furry, you're going to call me by a pronoun, and they uprooted our entire society. They said that children at the age of 2 could choose whether they were male or female. They could choose their gender, that there were like 170 different genders. I knew that
171 actually, let's be correct.
Right. and when Trump got in office, I thought, this nation had literally reached the tipping point of depravity when the president of the United States has to come out and say, and I'm signing an executive order. He didn't actually do that, but there are only 2 genders.
Oh, I think
Really?
he did actually. I'm pretty sure he actually
Was
did
it
sign it.
Neo? There
Yeah,
are
I
only
think-
2
I think
genders.
so.
Yeah, I think he did.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
Case in point, right?
Josh, do you think this that switch from the gun control strategy to the strategy of incitement, do you think that has something to do with this sudden change on the left to being like super anti-gun to like all of a sudden now there's this John Brown gun club and
Yes, as a matter of
Antifa, Antifa's arming themselves and they want to be like armed communists rather than
Yes.
bleeding heart liberals.
That
And
was
it comes from Antifa, which are fed. A lot of them are feds.
that was one of the most shocking things that I saw when the left resulted to the, we're scared of Trump and now we're arming ourselves. I had to do a double take, but why should I be surprised? But yeah, I do. I think that plays into it, and I think that we have. So again, all of us obviously lean towards one side. That's no secret, but we have to remain looking at this problem as it affects both sides.
Yeah.
Because the way that it comes down from the top is that it's like a left and a right hand, how we have, mirror image hands. So they give one script to the left, one script or one narrative to the left, one narrative to the right. And that's resulting in the same thing. So we're seeing, as Edward has said, people on the left are now arming themselves, which is something that really we didn't hear about or we didn't see beforehand. So does that play into this? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, it's pretty clear which side would do best in that scenario. But again, why are they arming themselves? What is driving them to that? It is that play on fear. And you saw that leading up to the election. This Donald Trump is going to put you in a concentration camp, and just.
I was more fearful if if that administration continued. I was more fearful that we were literally going down a path of hell and Marxism, and that there was going to be no return from it, because you take that 1% of the population and now they're in control and they're violent individuals. And like you said, if you don't, if I disagree with somebody, that's okay. I can disagree with them. But I'm not going to go back and light their Tesla on fire. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous too.
Yes.
Yeah. Josh, I would love to have you elaborate a little bit more. When you talked about creating these school shooters,
sure,
you were going into the process that they go through. So, a lot of people don't understand the detail going into creating one of these and how they actually managed to pull it off.
Yeah, so that unfortunately, I do have a theory as to how that's going on. I would estimate that it's probably about 80% accurate. I mean, there is room for it to vary, but the way that I gather they're creating these individuals is that first, as Bill Cooper stated, you need a mental patient. You need people who are leaning crazy, who you can feed the flame of their craziness. So that's what 4chan, Reddit, that's what all, and as we just saw with 4chan, it was being run by, government operatives. That's what these sites are doing, is they're funneling crazies, the ones that can be made even crazier. they're funneling them into subgroups, and so they fall in with a clique. It's like a high school clique. So, for our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, one of those cliques was Freemasonry. It's a circle of friends. You got to think of it as nothing more than a friend group. That's where this starts. It's what you would know as a terrorist cell. It's just a friend group. So if you have friends that you go out and drink with, if you have friends you go out and hang out with, now it's online. So these individuals from Reddit, 4chan, they're falling into these cliques, to these groups. Yeah. Some of these cliques are managed, I believe. Some of them may just be organic and they're not managed. But what they do further is they run different scripts on them. So I have definitely confirmed some of these cliques will blackmail individuals into hormone replacement therapy. They will use blackmail. They will get them to dress up, like cross-dress. Then they'll say, hey, we've got these pictures of you. And if you don't do hormone replacement therapy, then we're going to send these to your parents. These are isolated cases, but I've seen this exact same thing going on. I mean, this is very real. They have these transgender, they call them femboy cults. These apply particularly to males. They persuade them first and then resort to blackmail. And they also bully each other. It's kind of a communal thing at first. So it's like you have a friend group and you quote unquote shoot shit. The Freemasons called it talking on the square. You just say what you want to say without holding back, basically. And so these friend groups become open with each other. They're not afraid to voice their inner ideas, the things they hold close, and so they become intimately connected with this group. And if this group is managed, what they do is first they will wear down gradually. They will dehumanize the person. They will bully the person, but it will all be under the guise of Pepe, the ha-ha. If we bully each other, but we say ha-ha at the end, well, then we're not bullying each other. We're just joking.
Yeah, like hazing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what this whole Pepe, that's what I did that irony poisoning thing on, because that's the first step.
Explain just a little bit of what, you don't have to go into great detail, but explain what irony poisoning is.
It falls right in with it. So irony poisoning is if we follow the most deranged thing up with a ha-ha, well, then maybe I'm joking, but maybe I'm not. It's like, you don't know if I'm actually being serious. And I can tell you right now, I mean, just from my own personal experience, the jokes that are considered acceptable, there's nothing off the table. Like, these people will joke about school shootings. These people will joke about these things, and it's, they will genuinely laugh at it. And so that is the first step, is you fall in with a friend group. You're already a little crazy. Now you can't take anything seriously. Now you have quote unquote irony poisoning. So now I don't take anything seriously. I'm joking about school shootings.
It's like the Sarcastable from South Park.
Absolutely.
Stan's dad becomes like, he can't take anything seriously. Everything just becomes sarcastic. I hate people like that. Leftists always argue like that. It's really annoying.
Yes, and so that's the first step. And now, once you've achieved an individual at that point, the goal will be to manage them for a while. And this is a process, I don't know. I mean, I suppose it could be done 6 months to a year, but let's say maybe 2 years takes to hypothetically cultivate a school shooter. What you do is you find an individual who has little to live for, and you feed that flame. You feed the craziness. You normalize the joking about these things. You joke about school shooting. You joke about pedophilia. You joke about it. And then once you're used to laughing at it, it doesn't hold any ground anymore. Mm-hmm. So ultimately how this ends is they will take an individual. They will convince them that they have nothing to live for. They will feed into their depression. And then they will tell them that they can be remembered. They can leave a legacy. They will be remembered. They can change the world if they do this. If they a lot of them, they're anti-Semitic. So, okay, these people who set themselves on fire, I know for a fact that is as a result of this programming of this group. This group is known as 764 Order of the Nine Angels. It is considered a far right-wing terrorist network, sextortion. So a lot of times they will have women, who show up to partake in the friend activities. Just women who, like hanging out with guys, who like the rowdy humor, who like the dark humor. And they will run their own script on these women too. They will turn them into subordinate sex slaves, and they will do this through kind of feeding into this childish mentality. You need a man to take care of you. You need to be on a leash. You need to be a homemaker. You need to be taken care of. And that's all fine and good. Look, if you like traditional gender roles, nothing wrong with that. But where it does become dangerous is where you have a woman who surrenders all aspect of her sovereignty to the male. So if she moves in and she moves across the country to be with this guy, and she has nothing, her family is nowhere nearby, she's reliant on this man who maybe they've been dating for a year or something like that. They fall into a state of dependence. And that's where this starts. They meet each other online. They have online relationships.
And this isn't just men and women. This is men and women and women.
It's everybody. So, it's everybody. Yeah. Anyone who goes online, anyone who falls into these, friend groups where that is the most insidious part of it, is these people are genuinely your friends. It's like there is a genuine friendship here, and that's why this works. It's because these people do genuinely become your friends. Because if I have a sick sense of humor, I can partake in that with these people. And so a bond forms. And that really is what Freemasonry, secret societies, that's what it is. It's just a circle of friends who sit around and they can be open with one another. They're not afraid to say the things that you normally wouldn't say.
Well, in Freemasonry, they become brothers officially, and
indeed,
then
and that's
they have to put their brother above their own family. And I know multiple instances of people that their brother became a Mason, and then they put them above their own family.
Like, that's what it is.
Life or death situations, and then Scientology kind of does the same thing with, like, they make sure you, whatever money you have, like your family inheritances or whatever, like you give it to the church. I've known of Hillary, one of the people I knew in the church. She, one of my mom's clients, she did hair for the Scientologists for like 20 years. She gave like millions of dollars, like her Jewish family's money to the church, which is like crazy. So yeah, these cults all seem to have the same like modus operandi as far as inculcating their people with blackmail and like pretending to be your brother and your friend, and then demanding loyalty, and little by little you get funneled towards becoming like a perfect agent of the cult.
My grand it's a book I'm working on. My grand idea that I've discovered is that what this is a dark priesthood. So you have a priest, and a priest is supposed to lift people up spiritually. They're supposed to help you grow spiritually. So what a dark priesthood is it is a priest, somebody who enters into your life and brings order to your chaos. You have a chaotic life. They offer you an answer. They say, here you're at home with people who are just like you. And so at the end of it, their ultimate reward, the most horrible people, is that they're not alone in it. Right. I'll bring this
to be horrible together.
And I'll bring it back to the Bible. That's what this whole thing is. If Satan is destined to lose, there's no way he can win. What does he get out of convincing us all to lose with him? And it's that he's not alone.
Yeah.
He doesn't lose alone. And that's what this whole thing is. It's companionship. Yeah. And so this dark priesthood called Mahonism, that's a term out of the Mormon church.
Mahan, as in mayhem?
Mahon, Mahan. So Mahon means master of the great secret. The first Mahonist was Cain after murdering Abel. He makes this pact with Satan in the Mormon scriptures, which is identical to a Freemasonic oath, actually. And it's this idea that you can keep secrets. You can use secrecy to control people. You know, let's look at the Catholic Church, how they kept the Bible in Latin and the Vulgate. They were able to interpret the scripture, and so they used that to guide the masses.
Yeah, they hid away the Book of Enoch and the Apocrypha. Yeah.
Yeah, and they could understand it. And so it is these people who betray the ultimate bond of brotherhood. They become your friends, but through what's called the Judas clause, they stab you in the back at the end, and they reap their reward through that. It's that they take you all the way to the top, and then they stab you in the back and take it all for themselves.
Yeah, a lot of times they stab you in the front too.
So since the time of Cain and Abel, there's been basically two schools of rulers that are, there's the righteous rulers, the royal bloodline that's supposed to be ruling over earth, and then the dark evil priesthood, like you're talking about.
And that's what's
going back all the way to Cain and Abel. Yeah.
That's what
Enoch was one of the enlightened ones. That's why he went to heaven and walked with God, as it says in Genesis 6. He was like one of those part of the good bloodline that went all the way down to Jesus.
Yeah, and Enoch through study. And so Joseph Smith was a Freemason, the founder of Mormonism. It's important to differentiate the Mormon church today and what they were when they began. I believe, because of what Edward just said, that dark versus light priesthood, that is what Joseph Smith, let's just say, designed the Book of Mormon. That is the mythology behind it. I believe what the Book of Mormon really was fundamentally Joseph Smith trying to expose dark Freemasonry. And that's where these words come from. Now,
I think he just pretty much lied about everything. I had Dr. Artis.
Did.
Yeah, Dr. Artis was on our show. He is a medical professional who exposed the vaccines and snake venom. And he was on our show. He still comes on occasionally, but he was on our show for, I don't know, about a year and a half. And I found out he was Mormon. Mm-hmm. And he said that at one point, his family went back to, I forget which town that Joseph Smith was from. They went back there, and he wanted to tour their home.
New York.
Is that upstate New York?
Yeah.
Is that where they have his home? Do you know?
I don't know.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
It was upstate New York, and then it was Hannibal, Missouri, of all places.
Okay. Was it Hannibal, Missouri, where his home is?
I don't think they have a home for. I think they do have something in upstate New York, but they were run out of New York, and then they went to Missouri, and then they were run out of Missouri, and then they went to Salt Lake.
Well, the Mormons are the only group of constitutionally protected citizens to have ever been ordered exterminated.
That's true.
I believe that Joseph Smith fundamentally tried to write a scripture, a mythology, a story, and he did, around this dark versus light priesthood. That was an idea that is specifically inside the Book of Mormon, is that there is a dark priesthood versus a light priesthood. I think that a part of what he did was he was trying to expose Masonry, because in Masonry, there's a word that they use to refer to the lost word of Hiram Abiff. That word is Mahabon. Mahabon.
Yeah.
If you remove
That's
the
interesting.
Beth,
It's a password.
if you remove the Beth, it becomes Mahon. So it's right there in front of you. I think that Joseph Smith actually revealed that, and they killed him for it. That's what I think happened. Why else would you order a group of American citizens to be exterminated? They were very much anarchists. They were very much libertarian in the early days. The Mormons you see today are not the same as. What were you going to say, Skip?
Joseph Smith was making it up as he went along.
Definitely.
He and his boys used to get together and smoke and chew tobacco and spit and everything. And then at one point, Mrs. Smith said, "I've had enough of this. You know, if they're gonna meet here, they can't do all that stuff." And so the next time they met, Joseph announced that he had heard from God, and God said tobacco was bad, and they couldn't.
But wasn't there already like a really strong anti-Masonic sentiment
Yes.
in America? So as it was. So then
I think he tried to turn it into a religion, not a political party. And yes, he did make this whole thing up.
Like sort of feeding off of it or playing into it, or like I'm on the side of the anti-Masons, and then this is my religion.
I did want to mention that Dr. Artis was a Mormon, and when he went to go visit the town that Joseph Smith was in, he was told he couldn't go to the house by the people that he was with, and he said, well, I want to go see it, and they said, well, it costs $10. He's like, okay, whatever, I'll pay the $10. And then he went there, and he actually found out the real story about Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith secretly wed all these women while he's married. And I'll just read from the wiki. In April 1841, Smith secretly wed Louisa Beeman. During the next 2.5 years, he secretly was married or sealed to about 30 or 40 additional women. 10 of his plural wives were between the ages of 14 and 20. Others were over 50. 10 were already married to other men, and some of these polyandrous marriages were contracted with the consent of the first husbands. Now, he said at one point that Joseph Smith got tarred and feathered.
He did.
In front of town, and that his wife, he was having an affair with this one girl. The girl was pregnant, and his wife pushed her down the stairs.
Jesus.
So when he starts finding out, he said, I sang all these songs and hymns and praises to him my entire life. And when he found out who Joseph Smith really was, he decided he was going to, leave the Mormon church. Additionally, he told me another thing, which I didn't know, about the magic underwear. And I said, does it make you fly? And what's magic about it? And he says, well, it's this mythical garment that you can tell if you're wearing. It's like short long johns, and you can see it underneath the clothes, but they believe that it will protect them. I mean,
it's masonry.
But those things are not mutually exclusive. Like, he could be a total con man scumbag and then still be like an anti-Mason. Like,
it is masonry. Basically, Mormonism is very much like masonry, and it's almost a public masonry. They tell Masons, and this comes from Bill Schnebelin, who was like a former witch. He was a former vampire in the occult. He was a high-ranking
vampire,
Mason.
Like he drank blood and then quit, like he was an alcoholic vampire.
Well, he was, and then he became Christian. He had a revelation. Now he exposes all of this. He's written a number of books on it, but he said at the highest degrees of masonry, they tell you if you ever need to reinvent yourself, go and be a Mormon.
Wow.
And this is something I've heard from a number of people. If you need to run, you can run and hide under the guise of Mormonism. And that's why you have Mormon mafia. That's why you have the Mormons partaking in the ritual abuse. There is a lot of ritual abuse in the Mormons.
Yeah, the Mormon mafia actually built Vegas.
And so that they allow that because of their teachings within them include the same Masonic teachings that you were talking about.
Absolutely. It is masonry, basically.
But the deal is they think that if they ascend enough in righteousness according to Mormonism, they will graduate to eventually having their own planet.
Yeah, that's Luciferianism.
Oh God, Skip.
That's man will become a. No, it is true, and it's Luciferianism. Man will be his own god. Right. It is.
Skip, do you think L. Ron Hubbard got some of that from some of Scientology?
He stole everything.
Yes. He's a master Mason. He copied
all of these
everything.
Are masonry. Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormonism. These are all masonry, and they're all handled, in my opinion, through the intelligence. The intelligence networks are managing these cults because they're just cults. You have all of these cults. For instance, the Finders. All of these cults, you find that either they were Masonic.
The Finders is still in existence, by the way.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I did not know that they were still in existence.
Yes, and they denied their existence, but the Finders, I believe, were actually connected to John Walsh. They were connected to the White House, and the one of the individuals who was interviewed was wearing the mask of the president. He was wearing a
Wow.
Ronald Reagan mask.
Really?
And you're like, what the hell are you trying to tell us? Are you actually trying to tell us that the president is behind the sex trafficking and stealing of children? Because those children were going to the White House.
I think they all know.
Josh, would you say that the intelligence services that began as OSS during World War II, Wild Bill Donovan, and then established by Harry Truman, who also established Majestic 12 to deal with UFOs and aliens and stuff. Would you say that the majority of the men who formed those groups were Masons?
I can say that they might have been Masons, but I know they were actually, as a matter of fact, Sovereign Military Order of Malta. Yeah. They were Order of Malta. So wherever that crossover is, I don't know how much of Order of Malta was involved in Masonry. I don't know, but I know that they were either probably Masons or the Order of Malta.
The Order of Malta is the second highest in the York Rite. I actually pulled up the Masonic family map because I want to show people like how many organizations they have that are connected.
To answer your question, yeah, absolutely. The people who founded all of the intelligence community, they were involved in some form of secret society. In my opinion, it ties back to Rome. All roads lead to Rome.
Yeah.
Right.
And to this day, it's seeming more and more like this whole anti-Semitic thing. There are fair criticisms on the state of Israel, on the Zionist movement, but somebody wants people to be anti-Semitic. I don't know why, but I do think that ultimately you want to look for the power players. I think a lot of it's being run out of Rome, and I don't think they want you to know that, because whenever I look for my information, I notice that the Vatican does the best cover-up. They are the ones that have hidden the information the best. It is extremely hard to find information on the Vatican. It is extremely hard to find information specifically when it comes to the crimes of the Catholic Church. For instance, the things that the Catholic Church did during World War II, they were complicit in a lot of the Croatian, I think it was the Serbs that they were trying to genocide. The Catholic Church had a lot to do with that in Croatia.
Yeah.
And they've covered that up big time. They don't want people want people knowing about that. And that's very hard to find information on. So who is doing the best cover-up job? I could say by far the Vatican.
Well, there's a commonality here among all these people we're talking about. They get the idea, and then they have a group think about it. If you've never read a book called Crowds and Power by Elias Canetti, I highly recommend it, because he studied the psychology of groups and groups that get together. So the commonality is they all think they are special and they are destined to rule. And
absolutely.
And that's what happens with. So the Scientologists would be, which I was in for too long a time, was that when you were clear and then you went on to do operating Thetan, meaning nothing really, you're a spiritual being. The big secret was the OT3, Operation Thetan 3, which got exposed on South Park. Finally, they really believe this shit, and it was that you're special. And anybody who is not a Scientologist was called a WOG, which was a term that Hubbard stole from the British in India. And WOG means worthy Oriental gentleman, and so it was a knock on the Indians by the British colonials, right? And so Hubbard barred that. So anybody who was a non-Scientologist was a WOG, an inferior being. So I think it's this commonality when they think they're all special.
It's Darwinism. In my opinion, truest
right.
Satanism is Darwinism. And the way they phrase it to exactly what you just said, I'll sum it up. And I've said this to so many people. The way their mentality works is boiled down to this right here. Humans who do not use their intelligence are no different than animals who do not have intelligence. such people are beasts of burden and are thus stakes on the table by choice and consent. That's their beliefs.
Right.
And it's Darwinism. That's it. It's step on that person if I'm able to, because it's their fault that they're stupid and I'm smarter than you. That's it.
That's right.
That's what I mean.
Just to give you a little background on Skip Press, he's an author, professor, screenwriter, and a Scientology whistleblower. He was in Scientology very high up. He knew L. Ron Hubbard personally. He knew Cruz and Presley and Travolta. He knows most of the people within the industry. He is a screenwriter. He's written over 50 books, and he's a person that we consider an authoritarian, and has a lot to say. He's a very good teacher.
I just have known a whole bunch of bullshit artists. That's basically it.
I just downloaded that book that you recommended, The Crowds in Power, and I'm gonna do a deep dive.
Oh, you'll love it, man. You'll love it.
That looks like a good one. Thank you for that recommendation. I'm always looking for recommendations.
One of the things we run into when we talk about these groups is the outer circle that does they're all people that go out and do good works and take, they're altruistic. And so they actually create a good reputation for these people. So then those that have experienced that level, if you say anything negative, then they go, oh no, I'm not listening to that. I know Mormons and they're really good people and they take care of each other and and they've always been good to me. So you've got that going on. And I think the same thing was happening at the outer circle of Masonry as well, right?
Yeah,
that's why the Shriners have the Children's Hospital.
Right.
I just noticed we have 3 girls on the top and 3 guys on the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
Hey.
perfectly split.
Great.
No, that's very valid, and that's a hard one to navigate. The only way that I could really, the whole system runs on back scratching and do me a favor, I'll do you a favor. And so at the highest levels, it's not a bunch of people in cloaks with daggers conspiring. It's not like that. It's more, hey, I did you a favor. I need you to do me a favor.
Right.
And
that's also considered, conspiring. And they actually do have their ceremonies where they are cloaked, eyes wide open.
Where interests converge, a conspiracy is irrelevant. If I've got something to gain and you've got something to gain,
George Carlin quote.
Yeah, then it doesn't matter. We're both going to work for the same. If I can make money there and you can make money there, we're obviously going to do it together. Or that I'll backstab you at the end. That's how it works. It is a hard thing to navigate when you're trying to talk to people about it, because there genuinely are lots of good people in all of these clubs. I mean, like, that has to be acknowledged, and we should really give credit where it's due. I mean, there are plenty of good Masons, plenty of good Mormons, plenty of good Jehovah's Witnesses, plenty of good people, but it is a perfect place to hide. And the way that it works, like you said, there's an outer circle, and then there's an inner circle, but then there's also another inner circle, and another inner circle, until you're at the top of the pyramid. And that's what happens. It's a pyramid structure because you move inner to the closer inner circles, and it's the people who are the most trustworthy, the people who are willing to keep us. I don't know if it was Manly P. Hall or Joseph Smith. One of those two said the secret of Masonry is to keep a secret, and that is true.
Probably Manly P. Hall.
Obviously that's the optimum. That's the key point of a secret society.
They have some oaths about that too that are pretty drastic.
The first degree ritual already, you have to swear that you will either die and have your ashes spread across the 4 corners of the earth, or if you reveal any of the secrets.
Treason
and have your tongue cut out. and have your
Yes,
tongue cut.
and that if you ever reveal any of those secrets, they'll peck your heart out in the desert somewhere, and they'll
the
cook
ritual
your heart
itself,
with the gizzards and eat it for breakfast.
I have a video of it.
In the ritual itself, they put a dagger up to your heart, and they put a like a tow rope, they call it, around your neck.
Hoodwink.
And then they hoodwink you, which is a Masonic word. They cover your eyes, and then you have to not walk too fast, or you'll stab yourself, or you can't hold back.
Oh,
you have
great!
to walk, or
Oh my gosh, that sounds horrible.
Well, no, they say your oath can be violated in the cases of treason and murder, but note how rape nor pedophilia is listed.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
it's about loyalty. That kind of stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah,
well,
and
for instance, in the mafia, in order to actually join the roots of the mafia, other than your heritage, is in order to become a made man, you have to kill someone. So how
gangs
far are
are
we
like that too, So
Yep, MS-13, yep, all of them, and the
That's-
CIA is magically somehow always involved among them.
I think the CIA is the mafia, and the
Yeah,
mafia is the
that's
CIA.
how they killed Kennedy. Yeah,
so
they coordinated it.
That's an important thing that I want to touch on. So the reason that these all fall in, like, why is it that cults are falling in with Masonry, falling in with the CIA? There's a very simple reason for that, and it's because it works on the same frequency. It's in the dark underbelly. It's that there's a language you use to talk to each other, and it's blackmail. It's that if you want somebody to do something,
I thought that was just the currency of the FBI.
It's the currency of the underbelly. It's for gangs, mafias, and unfortunately, that is what the CIA and all intelligence agencies were created, such that they are able to deal in that underbelly. It's that the government wanted a way to deal with these people, and so to sanction it, they had to create an organization that existed on that wavelength.
Well, it's like the shadow government to justify doing it to us, to make it seem legitimate, but it's really them doing it behind the scenes.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. And these people all work the same way. And like I said, the currency is blackmail. If I want a mob boss to do something, blackmail works just as much for him as it does a politician, a senator. Blackmail is blackmail. And that's the currency that these people use. And that's why they're all tied up together.
I think the majority of Congress is blackmailed. And General Flynn basically said the same thing. He said he believed that the majority of Congress were blackmailed because of their pedophilia.
Yeah, well, how many Congress people have not gone through one of these like funnels that Josh is talking about towards the cult? They've all been through them. These universities, the frats, the Masonic Lodge. Like there's no way. Jesuit order, wherever thing they're part of is all working together behind the scenes. None of them are like independent guys.
What?
Or women.
I see your wheels turning. I heard a sigh coming from you.
Yeah, like you were thinking.
No, the Josh is doing a world of service by talking about the commonality of all these people. It's always the same damn thing. It's like they take somebody who's an innocent person, probably, who wants to do good, which that's the basic human instinct, really, when you're born, before you're groomed into something. And then they get them to go over the line on something. And when you get into these heavy duty adult groups, they get them to go over the line in something, and then they have the blackmail on them, just like Josh is talking about. And that's Skull and Bones. They do the same damn thing in Skull and Bones at Yale, right? And then they've got, like sitting in a bathtub and jacking off, and they're taking a video of it, just stuff like that. So that they're being groomed to move up the ladder, and they do help each other move up the ladder, but nobody who moves up the ladder can get out of line with the people who are in the ruling positions, because if they do, their crap will be exposed, and then their life will be ruined, or their family will be ruined, or their family will be killed if they find a way to get around it. It's the same method that's used over and over and over. Why do you think so many priests in the Catholic Church are gay. You know, St. Peter had kids. You know,
Right.
And it was a long time before, you know, you had to do a vow of celibacy. You know, and so because it's control, they move toward control, and the root of it is jealousy and wanting to be as special as God.
Right.
And they
That's
can't
satanic.
be. And that is the seed of Satan. That is the satanic error, and that's what they make grow.
That's Mahonism. Basically, what he just described, that seed of Satan, it is that I can use the priesthood, the spiritualism. So in the positive light, it's a church, it's a fellowship. If you have a group of people who get together to lift people up out of love and charity and fellowship, that's a church. But if you have a group of people who parasite off of the ones under them, that's a cult. But
Yes.
it's the
Hold
same
that
fundamental
thought for
dynamic.
just 1 second. Edward, you have a guest?
Well, I wanted to play this
bring it
video. It actually is going to be right about what I was going to say
Shall I bring it
about
in?
this topic. We can, yeah, because it explains it better than I do.
Okay.
Blue is now available in sealed capsules,
skip this
supercharged
ad here.
organic vitamin C at theology.
There's a chapter in the trigger of when this Sabbatean Frankist cult moved in on America. And when you
can hear it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's spinning
Okay.
right now.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Did it fail completely? I mean, I can summarize this point. Okay, so
You can
basically,
refresh it, maybe.
so the Sabbatean Frankists, that is the continuation of the cult that was started in the Bible. We call this
Ultra
known as the
Methylene Blue is now
Sanhedrin,
available in
but
sealed capsules, supercharged organic
it's also
vitamin C
called the
at theologyshowstore.com.
there's
Yeah.
a chapter in the
they're not
trigger
Jewish.
of,
First
Robert
and
when
foremost.
Seffer
the
did a book on
Sabbatean
that.
cult
Yeah, they're
moved in on
Babylonian,
America.
but the
16th
Sabbatean
And when
century.
you look at
yeah, they taught the
9/11,
same teachings. And
you can see how
So-
this cult was the cement that pulled the whole thing together, so that the CIA were involved, the Pentagon was involved, the government was involved, the FBI was involved, because this cult works like that. It infiltrates all these different cultures, all these different agencies, and through those connections, it works as one unit.
Okay, I'm going to pull that out. You've got some feedback on that.
Yeah, you got echo.
Oh, but can you hear him? Because I can turn the feedback down.
Yes, we
I
can.
heard him, yeah.
Okay, I can turn the feedback down.
All right, I'll pull it back in. Go ahead.
All right.
Who claimed to be the Jewish Messiah.
So you can hear him, right?
Who ran
Yes.
this
Yes.
Sabbatean cult that was an inversion of Judaism. He was given the choice by the Sultan in the Ottoman Empire of convert to Islam or it's over. So he converted, and a large number of his followers converted. And they became known as the Donma or Donme, which means to turn. And they outwardly
The resurgence of the cult in Europe.
claimed to be followers of Islam, but they were Sabbateans, which is a satanic cult. And I follow through one stream of this Donma, and guess where it led?
The Donme, the turncoats.
Saudi royal family. And it led to another Sabbatean called Wahab, who, with the British Empire and the House of Saud, which the Wahhabi's daughter married into, we get Wahhabism, this head-chopping ISIS extreme version of Islam, which is being used, of course, to create mayhem in the Middle East. You follow other streams of this Sabbatean Frankist cult, and it infiltrated the Roman Catholic Church. It was the force, because the Rothschilds are Sabbatean Frankists.
That's right.
It was the force behind the creation of Israel. I have a chapter in the book called Atlantic Crossing, where I show how this cult moved in on the United States. It's in Britain.
Paul Warburg.
And it's an expert in infiltration. It will appear as anything it wants to infiltrate, and people will believe that, yeah, they really believe in whatever they claim to be, but they're working behind the scenes as the Don men, the infiltrators. And the deep state in America, at its core, is controlled by these Sabbatean Frankists. And the Israeli government, I'm not talking about Jewish people. I mean, I've said in the book about 3 times, no one needs to read this book more urgently than Jewish people to see how they've been scammed by these infiltrators.
Well, let's pull back from that, because we know the Rothschilds are trying to put Netanyahu in prison. That's certainly going on. So there's major splits and power groups and things going on, and then we know that
let me know whenever you want me to pause it.
Found Israel, but then we get the internal WikiLeaks documents where now Soros wants to have a big cataclysm and have it fall, and then out of that comes world government. This is biblical type revelation stuff.
They're going to be more and more open. They're going to have to be more and more open, because what they're doing is being introduced. And along with trying to sell it in a positive way, as I talked about earlier, another side story to being open about it is to actually, in effect, say, well, what are you going to do about it? We got the power now, nothing you can do. And they are going to try to take the power away from people by telling them that they have all the power. And so people go, well, what's the point?
I believe this was before COVID that he said this.
Powerful.
Yeah.
They're not. They have to persuade us that they're powerful, and then they can be powerful because we believe they are.
Right.
There's billions and billions of humans. The number of people in full knowledge of what they're doing in terms of this cult is tiny. And this is why they are desperate for people not to understand the nature of reality, for a start. That's why it's all been suppressed, because they know how reality works.
That's right.
They know this is not a solid world. I mean, quantum physics knows that. So if you live in a solid world, and that's how we experience it, why we do can be very easily explained, as I do in the books. And when you feel the world is solid and everything's apart from everything else, then what do you have? Limitation. It's not possible. When I
Scarcity,
say
baby.
That's happening. Many times people have said to me, well, that can't be happening. It's not possible. No, it's not possible if the world's solid, but it's not. They know that actually the base form of this reality is waveform information fields. Think Wi-Fi. So you've got a Wi-Fi field, and it's just a radiation field of information, but the computer simply decodes that field into a completely different reality on the screen. And everywhere apart from on the screen, the internet or what you see is nothing like what you're looking at. Only on the screen does it look like that.
Could I play a video
and in
next?
the same way,
of course,
we are decoding waveform information fields, fluid waveform.
So yeah, basically he's explaining the nature of reality. I don't know if you guys want to get into that right now. But
reality.
Yeah, I want to pause and I want to play this for you, because this, what you just said, I'm going to piggyback right off of it, and I'm going to go into information control. This is definitely worth taking a listen to. Let's see. Got it right here. Let me share my screen. Pull it off into a tab.
Yeah, knowledge is power is not just a cliche. It's just there's like cursory knowledge, and then there's the real knowledge.
From the beginning, when the Bible was hidden from the people.
There we go. You can bring that in, and we'll.
Okay.
Let's see.
There's no difference between professional human handlers and intelligence services that governments use. Those in power want to stay in power, and information is the starting point of power.
It's great to learn, because knowledge is power.
Those that have educated themselves.
You, Goyim out there, you never teach yourself. You don't self-teach. you're always looking for somebody else to do it for you. The white race never figures this out.
Know thy enemy.
You don't self-teach.
He that knows his enemy's plans can both spoil them and stop them, depending on your goal.
So that's a guillotine. Yeesh.
Human betrayal is a real problem for us, being social creatures at heart.
This is your hour, Judas. Oh, master. You betray your master with a kiss.
We normally express our hopes and dreams, our fears and concerns to our friends. It was God's intention that humans would work together for a Zion cause, a true Zion cause.
You will own nothing.
Jesus is the Messiah, not
And
Rabbi
be happy.
Akiba.
Right.
Be happy and eat the bugs.
Much of their schizophrenic plans in modernity come from their anger that God took Enoch and his city away. They are still attempting to punish him for this, as well as for Noah's flood. Much of their Looney Tunes magic and occult rituals can be understood clearly when this is understood.
It's great to learn, because knowledge is power.
Sociopaths and psychopaths among us, born or manufactured, both happen today, are highly skilled at amplifying another's needs and then manipulating them to their own ends. Military attachés, such as America's CIA, Israel's Mossad, England's MI5 and or 6.
It seems such a shame when the English claim the earth.
Oh, by the way, there's two Enochs. There's an evil one
Russia's
and a good
Foreign
one.
Intelligence Service, France's Directorate of Military Intelligence,
I will have you execute that fascist!
Iran's Faraja, Kenya's National Intelligence Service,
Yeah, I was not born in Hawaii. I wasn't born in the United States of America. I come from Kenya.
China's Office for Safeguarding National Security of the CPG in the HKSAR, or the CPGNSO. And even the Rothschilds' spy network.
The CIA, basically.
Pretty much all of them put together.
All are designed to gather information and then manipulate the public with it.
Well, I am
That's
waiting.
the idea that I was getting to, is that this whole thing is about information. That's what the commonality between all of these things are. Is that they get information from all across the world, and they use that information to amplify the need of another person. So they'll study a person. They'll see what a person needs, what a person responds to. Now, the irony of this whole thing is that we all give our secrets away on social media. All of that information is hidden in the public eye. And so they know what makes you tick. And so they use that information to amplify your needs, to manipulate how they amplify those needs. And that is intelligence. That is what intelligence is. There are 9 points of control.
Blackmail is also information too, right?
That's
information that's damaging, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's just all kinds of exchanges of information.
Skip. When they were using the e-meters, that procedure, they were garnering sensitive information regarding the individuals. What was their ultimate purpose in Scientology to do that? And they're still doing it today. What did they call that?
Auditing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is that what you mean? Auditing the process itself? Yeah,
yes.
Auditing. Yeah, so you have auditing sessions. The counselor, the auditor, writes down everything that happened, turns it in. It's looked at by the case supervisor, who is basically a super auditor, graduated from being just an auditor, case supervisor. Case supervisor knows the processes that you're using, knows the end phenomena you are supposed to come up with. And then sometimes they come up with things like that people don't necessarily want to give up. It's embarrassing. Maybe it might not be illegal, but it's embarrassing. Like, for example, I was auditing a guy one time and had the hardest time getting him to admit something he's done. And he was fucking a chicken.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Is he German by any chance?
No, yeah, so then he felt better when he got it off. It wasn't used against him. But if somebody was doing something illegal, then it's priest penitent relationship. That's what they call it. And then they get sent to the ethics officer to talk about this. Well, okay, we understand you stole a car from your cousin, and you have to make amends for that. But they don't report any of it to the cops.
Right?
Never report it to the cops. Murder, maybe.
Right.
And they
weren't they responsible also? Scientology was responsible for some murders also.
Well, yeah, that's another story. Go watch that series.
Catholic confession works the same way.
Yeah. So
would they use it, like, did they know that John Travolta was gay?
Yeah. So here's the follow-up. So they compile the ethics things. It's like a Nazi dossier.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you ever leave Scientology, then they will use that against you. They'll leak it to the press. Now, it got worse when Hubbard died and David Miscavige took over. David Miscavige started videoing the sessions. And Tom Cruise wanted to leave at one time, but David Miscavige was watching on video as Tom Cruise was getting auditing. This is before they became best buds. And laughing, drinking and laughing about some of the stuff that Tom was giving up. It was all sexual crap. Tom is like a rabbit, and he's also sterile. Thank you very much. And so since David Miscavige took over, it's heavy duty surveillance stuff. It's really become more and more Nazi-like.
This is literally what the Catholic Church, the Catholic Church used the exact same process with confessional, and that's how they were able to bring down kingdoms.
Yes.
Same process.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've been
and that's probably how they've
blackmail in, that has been the currency, and also enslavement of man. I say, people say, how long has the MK Ultra been going on? I said, since man decided to enslave man.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, with the Catholic thing, that's probably how they find like other priests that are,
You're right. I bet so.
They're like, oh, okay, you're confessing that?
There is
you're not in trouble. You're going up the ranks, buddy.
I was reading a book on it. It's called Confessions of a Gay Priest. I was reading that book because somebody had mentioned it, and this guy is Catholic, and so he goes and he starts talking to these people and priests, and he's talking about how he wants to become a priest, and so he starts dealing with all these people, and some of them are gay with him, some of them are against it, some of them tell this guy to lie to his higher ups. So yeah, the whole church is like a mixed bag, but you're right, it is through confessional and through confiding in your spiritual superiors. That's how they move you. And then again, you fall in with the birds of a feather flock together. So you fall in with your own kind. And that's just kind of the way the world works.
Yes. We only have about 20 more minutes. Actually probably about 10 more minutes. And I'd like to get people's closing thoughts. I'm going to start with you first, Josh. What would you like people to know? Because we'll revisit this again, but what would you like people to know about Armageddon programming?
I think I kind of touched on this the last time, but it's important that everybody understand, just because somebody disagrees with you, you can't hate that person. That is the trick that they are banking on us falling into that trap. So if you and I are talking and it's clear that we're not going to agree on something, just say, you know what, let's stop talking about it. If we have to stop talking as people, whatever, but let's not fight about it. Let's not waste our energy on it. And let's
agree to disagree.
Yeah, let's not let it corrupt us as people. Let's not make it so that we hate each other.
Right.
You have to be conscious of what I just said. You have to be conscious that they're banking on people hating each other, and you just have to understand to pull away, not let that get the best of you. And that's the only thing we can do, that in educating people to that, to the fact at the end of the day, hating each other and arguing and fighting and being on the edge of your seat, that's feeding the flame. So people need to understand that that is an issue and make a conscious effort to not do that. That's all I have to say, really.
And where can people find you if they want to go to your website? And can they contribute to you in any way?
Yeah. I'm always down for people who want to guest write. If you want to guest write, just hit me up. So my Substack, it's theofficialurban.substack.com. But then all of my links, if you want, like all of my social media, that's bio.link/officialurban. I'll say it again. My Substack is theofficialurban.substack.com. And then all of my links is bio.link/officialurban. So
Thank you very much.
One day I'll get a domain set up for my Substack. But
yeah, not too far in the very near future. I foresee that for you. Absolutely. Ed, what would you like our audience to know? What are your final thoughts on the topic that we've just been discussing?
Well, real quick on possible solution to this problem. We had a president that did kind of stand up against these secret societies, Kennedy, and then was like immediately killed after he mentioned them in a speech, speaking out against them. But the problem is he didn't really have a movement behind them. It was kind of out of the blue. Like there was no big movement. But now we finally kind of have this movement that's anti-establishment that, it's very receptive to this knowledge about the cult that's really behind all this stuff. And so finally we have a chance to speak about it freely and do something about it. So I'm really hopeful. And I think like with what we talked about earlier in the last show with the Epstein situation, that's like one of the big things, you arrest these people, this cult starts falling apart because that's one of their main currencies is this blackmail, as we talked about. So I'm looking forward to this and I'm speaking freely. Like I've been to Masonic dinners, by the way, like 2 times. I was interested in joining like back when I was 18. So I know a lot about, and I've studied them a lot. So I know a lot about like their initiation rituals and like their words, that their little secret words and stuff that they use. So and now I like openly talk about it and tell people, which is like revealing their secrets kind of. So I think that's funny. And more people should do that. They should stop being cowards with this stupid ancient cult BS.
We're in a culture now, the unveiling culture, where people are unsecreting the secrets, and and they're trying to tell the truth as best as they can ascertain it. And all of us have some portion of the truth. We don't have all the truth. We may never have all the truth. God has all the truth, but we get little pieces of the truth that we can share to help elevate other people. Skip, what would you like everyone to know? Your closing statements.
Well, a few years back, the first major public expose thing they couldn't handle with Scientology was when they ran up against the group Anonymous, right? Who wore the Guy Fawkes mask and all that stuff. And this is what the elites, I guess you could call them, they are running up against something similar right now. Like, for example, the Doge kids, they're all Josh's age, pretty much. And they are kind of altruistic, and they can make so much money anyway. They can make $350,000-$500,000 a year with their talents, no problem. More, start companies, stuff like that. And so they cannot be bought off and easily swayed, like stupid actors, and Hollywood, that sort of stuff. And so I think that there's a tide has turned that has been brought on by the internet, and an equanimity among possibilities of freedom is growing all the time. And I actually think the back is broken of this international conspiracy idiots network. There's still a fight going on, but I think they're doomed to lose.
That would be it would just be wonderful if that was true. And I do think we're seeing some cracks in that, although I still am a little, sardonic in regards to will it actually happen? Because I'm jaded from all the times where they've said that we're going to see arrests. We haven't seen any. Where can people find you, Skip?
SkipPress.com, and come on over to X, and come over to Facebook if you want to, but it's kind of dumb over there.
Yeah, that's true. I used to be on Facebook like 24/7, and now it's just less and less. But I am on X like 24/7, because realistically, that's where you're going to actually get your first inklings of the news. And we know that the MSN is just going to lie their arse off. Jessica Garza, where can people find you? And your final thoughts, please.
So I think that, I agree with what Urban was saying, that we need to stop being so divisive with each other, because that happened to me when I was canceled by the Democrats. I handled it very in fear. I didn't like any Democrat. Just hearing that name or knowing that person was, or just talking to people, I was that traumatized to where I was creating this divide even with family. And then I started to think, this is what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to silence us and keep us just in our corner. So I do agree with what you're saying. And now I see it different. So I do agree definitely with everything you said.
Well, I mean, they did try, threaten to kill you and your children. You were getting death threats all the time. So that is very understandable. And healing takes many forms, but they also destroyed your business.
Yeah, they did. They definitely did. But I guess I feel like I have neighbors in the neighborhood, and I live in a really blessed neighborhood, and there's people who are just born Democrats, raised Democrats, and they don't know all the stuff that we know, or that, we are talking about. They kind of treat it like religion in a way. It's weird. Oh, well, I grew up a Democrat,
Yeah, they sure do.
So I don't hold anything against those kind of people. It's more like the ones that we see that are, with their nose rings and things like that.
And that are out to kill, specifically in your instance, it was kill any MAGA-owned businesses, and they went after you for that. Where can people find you?
You can find me on X at Jessica OG111, and on Mondays on Trauma Triage, and then throughout the week on Agent X11.
Excellent. And thank you so very much for joining us and for your input. Joan Renee, final thoughts?
Well, I think that Josh, his final statement was right on the money. These are all done to divide us. And when we were looking back at the riots, I could see the same bad actors. They all both started out the same. The demonstrations that we had, the Democrats demonstrating peacefully, and then the people with the masks and the black and the frozen bottles and the bricks and everything came in, and then they started this destructions and the fire, and then the news said this was a good thing, and it needed to happen, and so the Democrats began to support the rioting as if it was okay. When the Republicans were demonstrating, the same antagonist group was unloaded and infiltrated and did the same thing. And then the news said, oh no, they're all insurrectionists. They're all, they're all bad. So this was done to just exactly what you said, divide us. And so it's really important for us to wake up and see that, whether you're Democrat or you're Republican, you started out as good people. They were both in your family. And don't let that cause you to lose friends, family, or anyone you know, because all of this is coming from people you don't know, and it's planned and it was orchestrated. So no, don't let them divide you. And they can't win if they can't divide you.
Yep, 100%.
Absolutely.
The 2020 riots were like a very good example, a counterexample to the J6 example. But then when I talk to Democrats, I always bring up Occupy Wall Street, because if you remember, with Occupy Wall Street, like it was getting to the point where Republicans were starting to like join in on, everybody was coming like, yeah, screw these banks and stuff. So what they did, they deployed Black Bloc Antifa to turn the protest violent so the cops could shut it down. Yeah. And then those guys, the cops knew where they were and they didn't go arrest them. This is like actual news story. So if you actually look it up, it says FBI infiltrated the Occupy protest. So, and it's verified. It's like 100%. You can't deny it. So I always bring that up for Democrats. I'm like, they did it to you 100% undeniably right here. It's not proof, right? You can look up all the articles, and now they're doing it to us, and you're cheering it on.
We have about 3 more minutes, Ed. You didn't tell people where they could find you.
Oh yeah, just search my name on X, Edward Medallion, and I'm on Agent X11 on Fridays. Maybe I'll do more shows. I don't know. I like doing
that would be sweet. That would be totally awesome.
I'm learning a lot just being here.
and Joe, where can people find you?
Here on Agent X11, almost all week, and on Trauma Triage on Mondays on the David Zublik channel, and you can also find me on Joan Renee 27 on X.
Okay, and whoever's typing, we can hear you. Sorry. My name is Penny Elise.
I was shouting us all out on Twitter as you said that.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, let me follow you.
Well, you're a fast typer.
People don't realize it's really loud when you're doing that, so you might want to mute.
I moved it away.
He has a good keyboard.
Just mute your mic for next time. So I want to thank you, each and every one of you, and in particular, I want to thank you, Josh, for all the work that you're doing. I want to thank you for coming in. I want to thank you for the times that you've come in and switched your schedule. I just really thank you for being there. And I look forward to doing a lot more shows with you, and maybe some things, related to the show off air as well.
Awesome. Always open for it.
As we advance with Awake Nation and go into a couple of different branches. Anyway, we have come to the end of another Agent X11. We are going to be going 24/7 on the David Zublik channel, which is why we have to end at a certain time. So I'm preparing for that, which it's going to start on Monday. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Please join the Awake Nation. We're live on the David Zublik channel, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., and that's Eastern time. And you can find me on X under Shepherd Out. Thank you again. And we are out of time. So we are out of here. Shepherd out.
Renee out.
Garza
Urban
out.
Edward out.
Urban out.
Yep.
Yep. Present. Get out. Have a great weekend.
Have a good one, everyone.
Goodbye for today from Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. We post new episodes daily. Check out our true crime episodes Wednesdays and Fridays.
Please watch our main show, David Zubik's Awake Nation, on the David Zubik channel on Rumble. We are live Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern.